Hey everybody, it's Josie. Welcome back to Cedar Creek Homestead. Yesterday we were out playing baseball or t-ball with little Howie and sharing our video with you. And today it's been overcast and a little bit chilly. We've got rain chances moving in tomorrow with some storms and rainy for several days after that. Not complaining because you know, we had such a severe drought in our area last year, and I can report to you, I'm just looking at the ponds. The ponds are full and the creek is running, and we love to see that. We've got grasses beginning to come on. We're not fooling ourselves that we could have more winter weather before it's all said and done and it turns over to spring, because we get our average last frost of the year before sometime in April. So there's a good chance between now going into the end of February and March and even part of April that we could possibly have temperatures that would reach freezing and damage. You know, we worry every year when our beautiful little fruit trees begin to bud out. We worry about a late frost getting to them, and so we are, you know, cloudy and overcast, a little bit chilly, but we're definitely not complaining about the rain. I hope it's not too hazy out here for y'all. There's a brush fire somewhere, and the wind is blowing it in. I haven't seen any smoke, but it could even be blowing from across the river this direction, and so it might appear just a little bit hazy to you. So if you kind of think that's kind of what's going on, and it's definitely in the air, something that we go through every spring. But today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about a prepping item, Today I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking to you about an item that all of us should really concentrate on in our food stores and our preparedness, something that is vital to our very survival, and that is water. Now, we can live a whole lot longer with little to no food than we can without water. We can only survive 3 days without water, and so it's very important that we have a water supply and that we have good, healthy drinking water. And I've been listening to the news and the people in Ohio and Pennsylvania and the surrounding areas that are very concerned about the water supply, and although the reports are out there that they're not detecting anything, people are still afraid, and people are still in a place where they're not really trusting the reports and the agencies that are over those things. They're kind of scared about what the future might hold for them. Now, we have heard reports in several areas throughout the country over the last several years of contamination from bad pipes and all kinds of things that are going on, and people are really, you know, scrambling to work on their water supplies. And if you are preparedness minded, then water is definitely something that you need to think about. Now, we have a Berkey system, and I know that people have been talking about them lately, the filters, and other people have Alexa Pures and some of the do-it-yourself models that are on Facebook that people can build, and they have other filtration systems, and it's good to have that for some people use them every day instead of filtering their water like through a refrigerator filter or a whole house filter or a pitcher. They actually use their Berkey or Alexa Pure or whatever it happens to be that they have for their drinking water supply. Now, if you've been on with me for very long, you know when I've described Cedar Creek and how we're set up, I've told you that we have a creek that runs through us. It is named Cedar Creek, and it runs. It's not a all the time running creek. I wish that it was, but in the hot dry summertime, if there's no rain, it gets bone dry. I showed you that this last year when we were in severe drought. There was no water, not even puddles in Cedar Creek. Our ponds had dried up. But when we have a good year, when we have plenty of rain, and we have those years as well, the creek runs. We have ponds for the animals. We have two wells. One of them's a sulfur well, and we have a spring that has been used, had a spring house on it at one time. And Blade, in the last year working around down at the creek, he actually dug out another spring. And so we have water here on our farm. Plus we have the Illinois River, and we have the Arkansas River, and we have lakes. We're surrounded by water. And it sounds like a really good thing, and it is. But, you always have to think in the back of your mind, what would you do if your water supply was contaminated? And it has come to the forefront here lately because of the train derailment in Ohio and the questions that those residents up there have. And, there's been different stories out on YouTube and other places showing how the waters flow from there and flow into other streams and creeks and tributaries and into the river, Mississippi River, and how it could really become a problem if they in fact have an issue with their water and the chemicals that spilled in that disaster. We've been thinking about water here for a while, and Howie and I have worked and thought about ways that we could open the sulfur well back up. Not necessarily for drinking water. We here we would if that was a necessary thing, but thankfully we've got other water sources. I grew up, one set of my grandparents did have sulfur water, and they would say, oh, drink this Kool-Aid or drink tea, and you can't even tell. I was always able to taste that sulfur water, but I guess, that's what they had as their water supply. That's what they got used to drinking. And of course, back, in the early 70s, we didn't have any kind of filtration system on our refrigerator or anything like that. They just had to drink the water because that's what their water supply was. And we also have another desire that we had was to get the spring, get cleaned up around the spring and get a new spring house built there, and just different ideas that we had. We have several outbuildings. We have a big shop, and we have a big chicken barn and other outbuildings, and then of course my house has the roofs and the porches on them, and all of that can be used for water catchment. But you have to have the materials, and you have to have the things in place that will make it possible for you to catch that water. And that is something that we're working on, being able to catch that water and then have a way to clean it. Don't just catch it and drink it. You have to clean the water as well, whether you use a rain barrel or use some other catchment system. You need to clean the water coming off of these roofs, coming off of the barns and all of those. If you're planning to drink it yourself, you need to make sure that it's been cleaned. So even before in my neck of the woods, our water department sent out a letter to us in January. All of the people that get water from them as a source got. So we got this letter through the mail, and I'll read a little bit of it to you. It says, in January, the Public Works Authority received a notice from the Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality that for some months of 2022, a percentage of turbidity levels over 0.3 units at our water plant exceeded the set standard. Turbidity is a measurement of how cloudy or murky the water is. Also, in some of these same months, a percentage of turbidity levels exceeded the turbidity maximum of 1 NTU. During the period of high turbidity, our bacterial testing results were always within the normal range. This is not an emergency situation. Our customers are notified within 20. It says this is not an emergency situation. It goes on to say that there was no need for a boil order. There wasn't anything that we had to do. The letter goes on to say, however, if you have specific health concerns, to consult your doctor. The notice continues, if you have a severely compromised immune system, have an infant, are pregnant, or are elderly, you may be at increased risk and should seek advice from your health care providers about drinking the water. That the turbidity that we tested higher on was simply cloudiness in the water. And they blamed that on Lake Tenkeller, which is the lake that they draw the water from, and the drought conditions that we had this past summer. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to look up turbidity. And so turbidity, it says, is caused by particles suspended or dissolved in water that scatter light, making the water appear cloudy or murky. Turbidity is caused by particles suspended or dissolved in water that makes it appear cloudy. Particulate matter can include sediment, especially clay and silt, fine organic or inorganic matter, soluble colored organic compounds, algae, and other microscopic organisms. So I then researched a little more to see what they had to say about turbidity, and they say that in those times that turbidity doesn't cause any ill health effects. However, if it is tested and it's above normal levels that they consider normal, that it could cause gastrointestinal illness in people that have compromised immune systems, or infants, or pregnant women, or the elderly, like the letter said. So it always pays to make sure that you do your own research when there's an issue like this letter. So even here in our small little area, you can see that making sure that your water supply is good and clean and healthy for you to drink. So I don't claim to understand all the science behind all of the problems that can arise from unclean drinking water, but I do know that it can cause you severe illness. I'm not saying that our problem that we had in our water system is something that's going to do that. I'm not even saying that theirs, but it does pay for us to pay attention when there are issues with our water. Now, we're fortunate here. Like I told you a while ago, we're surrounded by water. But being surrounded by water isn't going to do you any good if you don't have a way of making sure that you're able to get your water filtered through something that is going to take out as much of those particles and unsafe things that can be lurking in your water. There could be metals in your water. There could be dirt and clay and silt. There could be bacteria. There could be other particulates in there that is not good for you to ingest. And so have a way to make sure that you can clean your water. Now, we might be wondering, well, what do we do if your water supply went down, if your public works, if you're tied to your public works? How in the world can you make sure that you have plenty of water, especially if you're in places that doesn't receive a lot of rainfall? It becomes harder for you to do water catchment. Some people live in areas that your state, your local municipalities have made it against the law for you to collect water. And so to collect water for your family, you would have to break the law. Those that went before us, a lot of them had rain barrels, and they had other water catchment systems at their places to be able to have drinking water. But then again, there were a lot of people that got sicknesses from drinking water that wasn't clean, fresh drinking water. You may say, well, how in the world do you go about catching water? Well, there's different ways, and I would challenge you to go on YouTube and do your research on water catchment systems. They don't always have to be the most expensive system out there for you to be able to collect really clean and really good water for your family that after it's filtered, you can trust that it's okay to drink. A lot of people that I see collecting water have guttering that catches the water, and then it runs into a catchment like an IBC tote. And then from there, they're able to filter it on down. Others have those big tanks like have the big water tanks that you can get. I know Tractor Supply has them. Sometimes you have to special order them. And but it's going to take some research on our parts to learn how to make sure that you keep them so that algae doesn't grow in them. How do you need to drain them when there's cold? It's winter time. It's going to freeze. What do you do with your lines? Are they going to break? Are your connections going to break? And so we need to really do some homework, each and every one of us, and figure out what's the best means possible for us to have good, fresh drinking water if your drinking water was compromised. Like I said, we have a creek, we have wells, we have springs. The lakes and the creeks and the rivers are all around us. We're very fortunate that we live in an area that has a lot of water. But if something should happen and the water table would become unsafe, some kind of big chemical spill or some kind of national emergency that would make the water that's out in the environment unsafe for you to drink, have you prepared? We all need to make sure that we've got water. We need water to survive. 3 days without water, and we're no more. So make sure that you are collecting water, that you're storing water properly. If you're going to store water on a concrete floor, you need to make sure that you get it up off of the concrete with on wood or blocks or whatever. A lot of people say, well, I can't really afford to go out and get these big systems. They have barrels that you can get, and you can store water in those and have it for safe drinking. You can even save your old juice bottles and your old heavier bottles like that and fill those with water and keep them put away. Now, they're not something that's going to last for years and years and years, but you would have water. I wouldn't use milk jugs. Milk jugs will leak, and it'll cause you more problems than what you really want to handle. You could put water in a soda pop bottle if you needed to do that for short-term storage. But make sure that you've got water. You could even put water in your canning jars and put them up on the shelf. You could can them. Some people, when they run a canner, if they don't have a whole canner load, like for instance, my canner will hold 7 quarts, and if I only had 4 quarts, they might put 3 quarts of water in there and can those as well, and they stick that water up on the shelf. So all of us really need to take responsibility for our own families. Those government agencies, they are out there, true enough, but this is a big country and a lot of people, and we all have to think about our own water safety and what we know that we need for our families, and try our best to make sure that we have a way to clean that water. Look into life straws, even if you have to dump your water. And what I would do is, if you had to get water out of the creek, you had to get it out of a place that had a lot of sediment, like in the creeks. When you dip down in those, sometimes you might get a little bit of that sandy. I wouldn't just dump that right into your filtration systems. I would have a way to filter it, like an old T-shirt or some kind of fabric like that that's going to catch those bigger particles, and then let your filters do the rest. But let's not just sit back and say they've got it all under control. We all need to research for ourselves, decide for ourselves what we need to do for our families to make sure that we have good, clean drinking water, and take those steps. take the steps that's needed for your family. You know, like I said previously, we were in a drought last year, and had we not had any kind of water supply at all, we would have been in a lot of trouble if something would have happened to our public water system. You know, the wells weren't ready to go. The spring would have taken a little bit of work. The pond, or the creek was totally dry, so we would have had to have scrambled to have water for our animals, because we run beef cattle here and they drink a lot of water, and all of our other animals drink a lot of water too, but compared to those big cows, they don't drink near the same amount. And so a lot of thought has to go into how to provide for your family and your farm, or wherever it is that you're at. Growing your garden too, you know, you have to have water for that, for your fruit trees. Sometimes you have to make some hard decisions when drought hits and the water supply is low. You have to make some hard choices on what you can really water or what you can't water. Of course, you have to water your cows and your other animals, but you have to sometimes let some of the other gardens and things go for that. So I hope I gave you guys something to think about, that you take consideration what you and your family is going to do for your water wherever you're at. You might be in an area that it's against the law to catch water, and if it is, then what does your family do? Do you have the means to store a lot of water? If you had to leave and you had to bug out and leave your position that you were in, you had to leave your home because you were evacuated or whatever, is there a way that you can take water with you? Water's not light, and it doesn't fold up and fit in your back pocket. It's heavy, and you have to take into consideration, if you're leaving your place and you're going somewhere else, is the supplies and the water and all the things there that you need, or are you going to have to be taking it with you? If you're planning on staying in your area, staying in your home, do you have supply? If the public water is turned off and you're relying on what you can provide at your resident, at your home, whether it's city or country, do you have what your family needs? It takes a whole lot more water than people realize that it takes. Choices have to be made. You may have to say, sweetheart, you can't take a shower every single day, 30-minute hot shower, and spend all that time scrub-a-dubbing in the tub. You may have to take a really quick bath and get on out of there. But like I said, we all have our homework to do. Know what we would do in the event of emergency if we had to worry, like those sweet people in Ohio are worrying now, waiting for the government to come back with whether or not their water is clean or not. There's questions there now. There's fear there. There's wonder there. We don't want to be caught not knowing what to do about our water supply. So do your homework for yourselves. Until next time, guys, this is Josie. I love you. I really do. Keep looking well to the ways of your household, thinking about that water catchment and how to make it safe to drink. And until next time, we're gone.